Welcome to On Second Thought, a TV show to discuss constitutional issues that deal with things like, are you losing control of your government? Do you really have a voice anymore in your own government? Today with me we have Dorothy Lyman, former city clerk of the city of Santa Maria. Welcome, Dorothy, to On Second Thought. And I'm really happy you're here today because I think you have a valid issue that I'm not terribly clear about, but I'm concerned about, and I think most of the voters don't understand what's happening. But first, when were you first elected city clerk?
Well, I wasn't first elected until 1960. I was appointed in 1957.
So you were appointed in 57?
Yeah, because my boss, Clarence Winter, had retired under the first city retirement program. And I had been his deputy for 3 years.
Okay.
And been studying pretty hard during that time.
And when did you retire from the city clerk's position?
Well, it was the end of 1983. The staff talked me into retiring before the election was held.
So you had like over 20, what, 20?
Well, I say over 25 because that's easy to figure.
Yeah, over 25 years as city clerk. So you know something about this job and the duties and the responsibilities.
Oh, yes. I was in the first international group of certified municipal clerks, CMC.
Okay. And were you not elected once to president of the State Clerks Association?
Oh, yes. I went through the chairs in the State City Clerks Association. I was installed in Monterey. Our mayor at the time, Elvin Mussel, came up and was my installing officer. And then the following year, as I was retiring, it was aboard the Queen Mary. And I tell you, that was a wonderful experience. The incoming president was a man from Northern California. Just as a personal note here, the installation was held in the grand ballroom. And when the installation was complete, Dick and I danced. And then my son came down with Dick's wife, and they danced. And then we all danced.
I had a great time.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Okay, I want to get into this issue. You've written a letter that appears, I believe, in the Santa Maria Times on Friday, October 6th. Is that right?
Yes, today.
Today?
Well.
On October 6th, you have this letter, and you raise some issues that I think the voters need to understand. My understanding of it is that the city clerk was supposed to be a department head in the city. Is that right?
The city clerk has always been a department head. They've received the $75 a month, which was established in 1905. They have always received that, and yet always had department head status and benefits. It's a full-time job. Okay.
And under the current changes that are evolving right now, we have a city manager, and what is his position relative to the city clerk?
Well, right now he is the city clerk. He had the council appoint him when Janet Calland left about a year ago. According to Janet's husband, she could not come back to City Hall the way things were happening.
So she left?
She left.
She just couldn't take it, and she's left the state.
Right.
Does this trouble you?
Yes.
Deeply?
Very deeply.
Should the voters be troubled about this?
Yes, because in March the voters declared by formal ballot in the election that they wish to continue with an elected city clerk. The way things are going, there will not be an elected city clerk because whoever comes into office will be forced to resign because the legal responsibilities they will not be able to oversee, and yet they will be responsible for their happening even though they are done by another person.
Because if I understand what you're saying, the city manager will really be the person who's in control and will call the shots, but the clerk will be legally responsible because they're elected to that responsibility. Is that right?
Well, the new deputy city clerk, new chief deputy city clerk, has been given that title by the current city clerk, who is the city manager at this time. But her title will be useless, canceled, how shall I say that, when the election happens. And so then the city clerk, the new city clerk, will have to bestow the title and yet not be, and the deputy works for the assistant city manager. So there are two people running, one who is already a city employee and one who is not. And may I just refer them to Valerie, who is not the city employee now, and Stephanie, who is. Stephanie will become, and is right now, an employee of the deputy. This doesn't make any kind of sense to me.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. How can she be the elected clerk and be the employee of her own deputy?
It doesn't make any kind of sense.
Is that what you're saying?
That is exactly right.
How can that be? Did the city council put this into position, or did the city manager do it on his own?
The city manager recommended the adoption of the current budget, and it's the budget that says that there will no longer be a director of records, and that $75 a month, as provided since 1905, will be the full salary. What's wrong with this is that the city clerk has always been a full-time employee, department head level and benefits. It's always been a full-time job. And the legal responsibilities are brought in by the city code, state law, federal law. City clerks will always have to study. There's been talk that the new chief deputy is a professional, and that is true, but anyone can become a professional if you're willing to study and willing to attend training meetings and meetings of, say, the League of California Cities, that kind of thing. And that kind of thing is required to get the title Certified Municipal Clerk, CMC. And that's all that's required. And whoever takes the job has to study continually.
Now, you've met a lot of city clerks, obviously, because you were president of the Clerks Statewide Association, correct?
Right.
Don't most of those clerks get elected and then sort of learn on the job the first year or two?
Absolutely. Elected city clerks are primarily longtime residents of their city.
So we don't really need a professional manager to be the clerk, because traditionally, and it's worked, hasn't it? All these years to have a clerk that gets trained after they're elected?
Gets trained to be a city clerk. There's no place in school that you can go to be a city clerk or a city councilman, as far as that goes. And you're not welcome into the training classes of city clerks until you are one.
So you have to get elected first to get into the training.
Correct.
To be a city clerk. So either if Stephanie or Valerie is elected this November 7th, they're going to have to go through some training.
Oh, yes.
Whichever one. As things sit right now today, unless the city council undoes an ordinance they've already put into effect, the clerk, the elected clerk, will be under their own deputy?
Right, right.
That I heard you say it twice, and it still doesn't make sense to me.
The solution actually is in the hands of the city council. All they have to do is amend the budget to provide a department head in the city clerk's area.
Now, if they have,
it used to be called director of records, because when the city clerk the city clerk by law has control of all records, and in that, not even a court can take away an original document from the city. The city clerk makes a copy of it and goes to court and attests to the fact that it is a current copy and in effect. You take that away, and court appearances are necessary by the city clerk.
so the clerk would still be legally responsible.
Yes. And
But the
subject to
manager,
punishment.
the city manager, yeah, and subject to punishment. That's an important part, subject to punishment. But the manager would really be pulling the shots. So supposing the manager, for some reason, some future manager, not necessarily the city manager we have today, but supposing some future manager comes in and says to the clerk, give me those original records, I'm going to take them and study them at home tonight, and maybe I'll bring them back on Monday. Is that legal for them to do?
Absolutely not.
Could he do it? I mean, could he physically do it? Could the clerk stop him?